It is a profound truth that every soul eventually faces a test endured in complete and unbroken silence. This test exists beyond the reach of therapists, beyond the guidance of self-help books, beyond even the understanding of those who genuinely love you. You may have spent years believing you were simply enduring difficult chapters of life, unaware that you were, in fact, passing through the most demanding examination a human consciousness can experience. Throughout my decades of observation, I have studied these invisible initiations that reshape certain souls at their very core. I have seen that some individuals enter what I call the process of individuation through a doorway carved by profound suffering, suffering that leaves no visible scars, yet alters the entire inner landscape. The signs of this transformation are not easily recognized. They appear in subtle gestures and quiet shifts, perceptible only to those who have navigated the same interior terrain. Perhaps you have already crossed this threshold without realizing it. Perhaps the evidence is etched in your energy, in the way you inhabit the world, in the quality of presence others sense but cannot articulate. These 7 signs we may explore are not accomplishments to be announced with celebration, but gentle revelations and inner recognition that consciousness has been irrevocably changed by its encounter with its deepest truth. I have come to understand that certain souls undergo what can only be described as a second psychological birth during their lifetime. This birth does not arrive loudly. It unfolds in the pauses between conversations, in the stillness after emotional storms, in the quiet recognition that the self you believed you were striving to become has been quietly living within you all along. The essential question then is not whether you are worthy of such a transformation, but whether you can recognize that it has already begun. Like a tree strengthened after being struck by lightning, the psyche develops a renewed resilience. It is not the rigid strength that resists all impact, but the flexible power that bends without breaking. Integrating challenge into its very roots, one learns to convert difficulty into growth, transforming poison into medicine, disarray into understanding. The first sign often emerges in your relationship with solitude. Where loneliness once felt like a sentence, it gradually becomes a sanctuary. I have written extensively on the abandonment complex, the profound psychological wound that causes us to scatter our energy in endless searches for approval, the longing, and reassurance. When this complex no longer dictates your choices, something fundamental has shifted. Your energy no longer dissolves in the pursuit of external validation. A new quality of stillness takes shape within those who have endured their soul's most demanding trial. It is not the stillness of numbness or withdrawal, but the quiet equilibrium that arises from no longer needing to justify your worth to anyone, including yourself. You discover the ability to be genuinely alone without the restless impulse to fill the space with noise, movement, or the presence of others. This solitude becomes a creative force rather than a destructive void. In these quiet spaces, you notice that your deepest insights do not come from constant interaction, but from communion with the inner depths that reveal themselves only when the outer world grows silent. I have identified this capacity for meaningful solitude as a defining mark of the individuated personality. You begin to notice how others escape themselves through constant socializing, continual distraction, or relationships that serve as avoidance rather than connection. There is no judgment here, only a calm recognition of the very patterns you once inhabited, and then the paradox becomes unmistakable. The more at ease you become in your own company, the more magnetic you appear to those who long for authenticity. Your nervous system recalibrates. Where the unknown once triggered instinctive anxiety, you now meet mystery with what I have called active imagination. You begin to develop an appetite for the liminal spaces where transformation leaves those threshold moments, where one version of you dissolves and another quietly rises. The second sign reveals itself in how you relate to your own shadow. Much of my life's work has been devoted to understanding shadow integration, the process through which we stop exiling the darker aspects of our nature and instead learn to engage them consciously. This integration unfolds within you in ways that would have been impossible before your great trial. You cultivate a fierce honesty with yourself about your capacity for manipulation, your hunger for power, your potential to wound others when you feel threatened. And rather than frightening you, this self-knowledge becomes a profound source of strength. You no longer see these impulses as character defects to be eradicated, but as primal energies to be understood, guided, and channeled with intention. Your anger, once something that either erupted destructively or smoldered in repression, becomes what could be called a sacred fire. It burns now only what truly needs to be clear. From your path relationships that restrict your growth, patterns that keep you small, agreements you made before you understood your own worth. This anger no longer sabotages your evolution. It serves it. People sense a new energetic integrity in you. Even in silence, your authenticity is felt. Because you have made peace with your own contradictions, you're no longer compelled to resolve the paradoxes within yourself. Instead, you learn to hold them consciously, allowing them to generate the dynamic tension I once described as essential for psychological development. The way you metabolize emotional intensity has changed at the root. Feelings that once overwhelmed you for days or weeks now arise within a container strong enough to hold the full spectrum of human experience. Your emotional range has widened, yet your relationship to these feelings has shifted into a conscious partnership rather than an unconscious possession. The third sign appears as an unexpected immunity to projection. Projection, the unconscious act of depositing one's unprocessed psychological material onto another, becomes something you identify almost scientifically. You can see instantly when someone is making you responsible for emotions, reactions, or revelations that belong solely to them. This recognition does not bring anger or superiority. It simply registers as data about how the psyche behaves in the absence of self-awareness. Drama that once pulled you in like a gravitational force now feels strangely foreign. You observe triangulations, manipulations, and emotional games with the detached curiosity for researchers studying natural patterns. Your compassion shifts as well, from the codependent version that sacrifices itself to save others into a mature compassion that offers presence without abandoning itself. This connects directly to what I named the transcendent function, the ability to rise above polarized conflicts and perceive the deeper patterns operating beneath them. This function activates within you whenever others bring you their crises. The automatic anxiety that once made their emergencies your emergencies dissolves. In its place is a serene awareness of your limits and an understanding of the wisdom in letting others face their own necessary challenges. You find yourself stepping back from situations where your energy was being used to stabilize someone else's emotional balance. And this stepping back is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the recognition that there is a difference between supporting someone's growth and enabling their refusal to learn the lessons life is presenting them. People may misinterpret your boundaries as coldness, but you understand them as the protection of something sacred within yourself. Your relationship with time itself changes. You stop experiencing time as a scarce resource to clutch or a hostile force to overcome. Instead, time becomes a dimension you inhabit with presence and depth. The fourth sign appears in your intuitive capacity, which blossoms into a fully awakened function. Where you once relied primarily on linear reasoning, you now consult an inner knowing that grants access to information beyond rational analysis. This is one of the most remarkable shifts. Synchronicities begin flowing into your life with greater frequency, creating the unmistakable sense that events are aligning according to an intelligence far larger than anything you consciously orchestrate. You begin to tell the difference between the urgent demands of the wounded ego and the quiet, steady guidance of the self, the archetype of wholeness that emerges as the individuation deepens. Your capacity to read the invisible layers within people and situations expands in ways you once would have considered impossible. You start perceiving motivations, patterns, and outcomes that remain hidden to others, not through suspicion or cynicism, but through a heightened sensitivity to the energetic information flowing beneath surface appearance. Decision-making no longer hinges on endless pros and cons lists. Instead, you cultivate a direct line to ancestral wisdom and an inner counsel that draws from knowledge accumulated not only from your personal experience, but from the collective unconscious itself. A new quality of listening forms within you, one that goes far beyond hearing words. You attune to the spaces between sentences, to the emotions hiding beneath exclamations, to the soul speaking subtly through the persona. This kind of listening is not analysis, a reception, not judgment, but a deep witnessing of the full spectrum of human complexity. The fifth sign reveals itself in your acceptance of the natural cycles of psychological development. You integrate the archetype of death and rebirth so deeply that the periods where your life seems to dissolve no longer provoke fear. These apparent endings become familiar preludes to expansion, transformation, and renewal. Your relationship with uncertainty shifts, dramatically moving from avoidance and anxiety into active engagement. Where you once needed guaranteed outcomes, you now understand that the most meaningful growth occurs in the open space between decision and result. By choosing to act from inner alignment, an energetic economy begins working inside you, preserving your vital resources. Your energy is no longer scattered across countless draining commitments. Instead, you learn to invest your life force deliberately. Like a wise gardener tending what truly matters, you recognize that growth moves in spirals rather than straight lines, revisiting certain themes again and again at deeper levels. This brings a profound patience with your own process. Your creativity undergoes a fundamental shift. Moving from external achievement to internal expression, you create no longer to prove your worth, but because creation itself has become a form of communion with the life force moving through you. The sixth sign appears in your transforming relationship with external validation. Alfred Adler and I both wrote about the inferiority complex, those subtle wounds that compel us to compare, compete, or constantly prove ourselves. This complex dissolves within you so thoroughly that the old impulse to measure your worth by external standards feels completely foreign. You develop what I call dinner authority, a solid psychological structure that validates your experience without requiring the approval of the crowd. Your self-worth no longer rises or falls with shifting opinions. Praise and criticism register with equal neutrality, processed as information rather than as verdicts. This shift liberates enormous amounts of energy that once went into managing your image. Your authenticity becomes non-negotiable. You naturally prefer rejection for being who you truly are over acceptance based on performance. Even the way you inhabit your body changes. A deeper groundedness arises from genuine self-possession. You move through the world as someone who belongs to themselves first. The seventh sign manifests as a refined discernment in how you invest your energy. The individuation process culminates in what can be called energetic sovereignty, the ability to guard your essence without force or aggression. Simply through conscious choice, your presence becomes more deliberate and more precious. You no longer distribute your attention or emotional availability indiscriminately. This is not elitism. It is wisdom about the sacred nature of your life force. A quiet authority radiates from you, not power over others, but power over yourself, which marks true psychological maturity. The guilt that once accompanied setting boundaries dissolves entirely. You protect your energy as naturally as you would protect any precious resource. You can identify with clarity the people, projects, and relationships that drain your vitality without offering growth or reciprocity. Even your relationship with suffering transforms. Where once pain was something to avoid at all costs, it becomes a teacher whose lessons you receive with gratitude. This does not mean you seek suffering, but that you extract meaning and wisdom from the challenges you cannot escape. A stillness begins to accompany you, not an absence of movement, but a presence of deep-centeredness. This stillness draws others who are searching for something unnamed, something they sense within you but cannot articulate. You become a living expression of the individuated soul. Your relationship with hope matures as well, evolving from wishful fantasy into an active trust in the life process itself. You no longer cling to specific desired outcomes. Instead, you trust your own capacity to meet whatever arises. This second psychological birth signifies not merely recovery, but a fundamental reorganization of consciousness. You become psychologically independent from early conditioning. A sense of completion arises, one that has nothing to do with external accomplishments and everything to do with internal reconciliation. You no longer need to heal from your past because you have learned to create from the present. The person you once believed you should become is revealed as a limitation compared to the uniqueness of who you already are. Your journey continues, but a major threshold has been crossed. You have passed through the soul's most demanding initiation, emerging not unscarred but integrated, not unchanged but more profoundly yourself. The test revealed your true nature, and the truth I spent my lifetime uncovering becomes your lived experience. The soul does not grow despite suffering, but through a conscious and transformative relationship with it. Your pain evolves into your teacher, your wounds transform into wisdom. You carry the quiet dignity of one who has met themselves fully and found not perfection, but wholeness. If you recognize yourself in these signs, know that you have undergone an initiation few will ever comprehend. Your transformation contributes not only to your own evolution, but becomes a living template of possibility for others. And even now, your journey of conscious evolution is only beginning.